I love that perspective that you added, Adam, because I think it's so interesting. I heard you say a wide range of things. The first thing I remember is that you mentioned that if you come into the cannabis industry and you mention, oh, I've got 2 to 3 years experience, that's still somewhat entry level in any other industry, right? That's kind of like your starter. But then Pam, you mentioned brilliantly that if you've got an area of expertise, marketing and accounting were some examples that we used, right? So perhaps you've got the last 15 years of expertise. And Adam, you've mentioned this a couple of times where we really need that level of professionalism, that certainly there will be components of specialization about cannabis accounting or cannabis specific marketing, but that if you bring a certain level of professional expertise, that this industry is actually very ripe for that. They are looking for that the level of expertise, that kind of professionalism to really, and it's so beautiful what you presented about your coursework, to integrate that level of expertise with real life, not applied theory, but real time, current moment challenges. And how cool is it that you're bringing C-suite operators or the C-suite of operators into the classroom? So it's not like your traditional vocational training as you might think of it, right? It's not just like, oh, part A goes with part B, goes with part C, and let me teach you this. It's like, no, like there are current moment challenges that as an industry, we are craving amounts of professional expertise. So please bring that to the industry. Take the intro to cannabis class so you can just get your bearings on what's going on here, but bring that level of expertise to some of these operators. And it's likely that you'll be able to advance, offer something unique, really find your space in the industry as it continues to grow and evolve, which is actually kind of takes me into my next question. So as you start seeing, I love that you're doing virtual classes, right? So as you start seeing legalization move across the country, right? So the regional relevance of education really expanding, how do you see your courses evolve? Are you still thinking about just creating courses that primarily focus on California market? Of course, there's different nuances in every region, but have you thought of, I'm sure you have, but I'd be curious what your thoughts are in thinking about regional expansion for your courses.
So, and just to be clear, when you say regional, you're saying outside of the state of California or inside of the state of California, or both?
Outside of the state, I guess both, right? Because I feel like there's going to be different things that are relevant to the state of California that aren't relevant to the state of New Jersey. But like at the same time, if you're doing virtual classes, like that's kind of the nature of my question, right? It's like if you're doing virtual classes, you really could even create a multi-state operator course in some ways, right? So I'm just curious what your thoughts
Yeah,
are
yeah.
about like how you're thinking about course evolution.
So one thing that's very important to consider, okay, when it comes to this type of work, and this is truly a unique and historic moment to be able to work with the community college for a few reasons. So let's just take, for example, Facebook. Facebook in 2000, I don't know what it was, 6, 7, 5, you had an industry that, sprung up with social media and the idea. But, and then you had classes that started to talk about programming and stuff. And you were easily able to grab that class that was in California, for example, and take it to New York and then start it over there. That's just not the case for cannabis, right? That's just not how things, if something great happens in one part of the country, it can really quickly, at the time and speed of business, move to the next area of the country to say. Unfortunately, that's not the case because one, again, it's the perception that you're fighting. That's right now. In California for the last decade, we've been fighting the perception, and we still come across individuals a lot that don't understand, don't know why, or are against because of lack of knowledge. So let alone to go into some other states that have never legalized cannabis and are thinking about it, I can only assume how much worse the perception can be. So to be able to develop such work, you really have to develop the policy and almost get to a point where we can change the stigma first. Because are you crazy? You want to come to a college class and talk about weed and cannabis and teach it to people? Some people have that mentality. And how can you practically have a conversation about any kind of education if you hit that block? So that's why it took us almost 2.5 years here in the city to be able to kind of build the bridge for an actual class through education and breaking the stigma. So I don't think it's going to be as easy for it right now. In the future, it's going to explode everywhere around the country. The cat's out of the bag. You can't hold it back. They haven't been able to hold it back. The war on drugs never got anywhere, you know? So, I think it's going to expand. And, we got a saying, the way Long Beach goes, you get LA. The way LA goes, you get California. The way California goes, you get the nation. you know and I think we'll as cannabis industry in California, if we keep building here, it'll make the ability to export it much more easier when the time comes that those other regions are going to be ready for such a program. um, but because of the differences in regulations from state to state, our course is very hyper specific on California rules and regulations. So the course material will have to change, no doubt, from state to state. But the basis of the work information, how to grow, how to manufacture, how to apply accounting, how to apply taxes, how to apply certain, those are going to be standard across the nation, to say, right? Not saying people grow different ways, but it's not as arbitrary as regulations from state to say, you know. So we look forward to it, but our main focus right now is just to keep building this pilot program, and our hope is to get it to a Cal State Long Beach, maybe to a UCLA, and then all of a sudden, these education, these academic institutions, they also communicate with each other, and that's going to be our best opportunity to have that conversation when it comes from the inside.
I think that's so well stated, but also well informed from a strategy perspective. Because I think a mistake I see a lot of different businesses making, whether it be in the cannabis space or any other industry, is trying to go too wide too quickly. And so I think that you're really smart to take your focus really to your backyard, the region that you've got an expertise in, you've got an existing brand in, you've got 700 folks who are inbound requests, right? You're following demand as opposed to saying, oh, cool, there's some demand here. Now let's vomit out every option that we can possibly think of. And then you're also using feedback, like your survey-based feedback, to really, it sounds like, design what next steps from a course offering perspective that you're looking to evolve into. So I think that makes complete sense. And I love the way that you answered that question. It's really thoughtful.